Welcome back, everybody. What do I take to a wedding? What do you need? And how everything is packed up. This will be part one. Is cameras, lenses, and a few minor accessories. Here we go. All right, start off, I have a main case, which is my Pelican 1510. I do carry two Z9s in it. One is filming, and one is right here. One Z9. It has a small rig cage on it, just as a small protection against the side, and if I need to attach anything throughout the day, who knows what you might need. They both work great. I have them both set up the same way, and usually run two lenses on them, and run a black rapid strap for both cameras, one on each hip. As far as the other camera, I do have a backup camera. My backup camera is a Z8, so I'm running two Z9s as two mains, and I will have a Z8 with a third lens attached to it depending on situation, what we're doing, where we're at, the size of the venue, ceremony, depending on who we're taking photos of, group. We can run three lenses and not have to switch anything. It makes things a lot quicker. We have two Z9s as mains and one Z8 as a backup camera. As far as lenses go, probably the most used one I've got is my 24-70 2.8. It's pretty versatile. It works. It's nice and crisp, it's sharp, it's real fast to focus. It usually has zero issues unless they're mine. It is one of the first S-line lenses that I did buy. It works great. It has almost no issues. It's nice and crisp and clear, and it definitely helps me out. We also have a 50 1.2. I used to have the 50 1.8. I did upgrade. It is a little bit bigger. I do like it. There is a lot of situations where it does work well, especially if you want to blur the background a little bit, especially if there's like a bride and groom dance on the dance floor and you have maybe some lights or something behind them. You can get a really good color with this, separate them from everybody in the back, and it's almost like it frames them out. It works really, really well. It is a little bit heavy, but it's not really bad hanging on the side of the straps. I've also got a 85 1.2. It is about, a half an inch shorter maybe than the 50 1.2, and it's pretty close to the same weight. So you really don't notice the difference between the two. It is just a little bit wider, a little bit more bulkier of a lens. Again, same premise as the 50, depending on where you're at, what you're doing, and the size of the room. You can step back with the 85. If you don't have the room, then the 50 1.2 comes into play. We also have the 70 to 200. Obviously, most people will have one of these. Combined with the 24-70 gives you really good versatility. Anywhere you go, you've got a lot of range, 24 to 200, depending on what you're after as far as the look. Having both of these on, one on each camera, will help you out greatly with a lot of more busy areas, busy events, busy weddings, receptions, anything else where you can't get from, say, one side to the other, or a lot of things are happening in different areas. You can zoom in real good with this, real wide with the 24-70, with both at the 2.8, everything else is set the same. Your cameras are set the same as far as settings, and your lights don't have to change whatsoever. We also have an FTC adapter because we do have a couple F-mount lenses still. All these are Z-mount lenses. Of course, we have extra batteries for the Z9s. Usually on a 10-hour day, 8-hour day, we might hit the second battery maybe 25%, 30%, but in case we're gonna need them, of course, always have the spares. Also, still have the f-mount 105-28 macro, the micro lens. It doesn't come out much, but it does get used. Certain ring shots, maybe pictures of some of the details on the tables we can get with this head table, some of the getting ready shots of the details. That's where this comes into play. It comes out for a little bit and then it pretty much goes back in the case. The ultra wide lens we have, 14-24-28. This will get you a nice wide massive shot of, say, a reception, the ceremony area before everybody gets there. It's nice to get the really wide shot. You can do it with a 24-70. If it's really big and you want to cut out some things on the side, you can do some vertical panels, but the 14-24 is pretty nice. It does help out. It also works really well at the end of the night during dances when everybody comes out to the floor. You hold this up over the top and kind of just point it down at the dance floor. You get the whole floor and move it around a little bit and you get a really good shot. Also a recent acquisition, we did get the 135 1.8, the S-line, the newer one. It kind of falls in line with the 85 1.2 and the kind of look that you get. It is a little bit longer. It does have its purpose. You can get really good portrait shots with this, especially outside. If there's people coming in and you're trying to get an area, you can scoot back. You can have this as far as a longer type of lens. It does work really well in receptions if you have the room. It's nice for low light, being a 1.8. You can kind of pair this if you're running, say, a 50 1.2 and maybe the 85 1.2. You can throw the 135 on the Z8 as a spare, have it off to the side, grab that really quick for a couple of quick little close-up shots, and go back to the other two. We also have we also do take the old f-mount 200 f2. Now, we do take it. Whether or not we use it is another story. It does come out every once in a while if there is some space. Now, it is big. It doesn't get carried. It gets used. It gets put away. I mean, it is a lot bigger than everything else up here, but it does do a fantastic job shooting portraits outside. Indoors, it's very limited. You might be able to do some cake shots with it. Other than that, I mean, you're pretty much going to use 70-200 for those, or even the 135 or the 85 as far as those are concerned. The 200 will go in the truck on the way there. It may come out, get some shots with it. I've done some groom portraits with it. I have done a full wedding party shoot outside at a park. In one of the other videos you can see that. And I'll link that up there. I also have a review on this. I've had it for a number of years, probably going on 5 years. It is one special lens. It's got a unique look to itself, but of course it does need to be adapted, and that's why we bring the adapter. We have the adapter for the 200 f2 and the macro lens. Do you need all of this to shoot a wedding? Of course you don't. You don't need, I mean, we have 3, 4, 8, 9 lenses and 3 cameras. You absolutely don't need all that for the wedding. This I've gotten over the years since I started 2017. So I've been doing for 7 years, on and off here and there. I do second shoot a lot as well. That is probably the best advice I would have to say if you wanted to get into doing weddings. If you're interested and you have the passion for it, find somebody that does weddings. See if you can either second shoot, assist, or even just go along to watch. The best advice I could say is to go along. If you've got a camera, a lens, and I would say one on-camera flash, that would be the best way to initially start, see how everything flows. You have to have an idea of how the day and the whole night works. The flow of things, the order, what issues you're going to run into, the problems, any way to solve those, how to set up for lighting at a reception. This is not a jump in, get your wedding as the main photographer and go for it. this is this is somebody's special day, and there's a lot of people there counting on you to capture everything. If I would have to say the two things that you would need, you're going to need obviously a camera. I would say if you're second shooting, at minimum I would say a 2470, a camera, and at least an on-camera flash. That's going to get you a little bit of fill light. You're going to get a pretty versatile lens. You're going to get some of the wide shots. You can move forward, zoom in at 70. If you're going to run two, I would suggest the 2470 and the 70-200, of course. That's going to give you the most range. It's going to give you the most versatility throughout the entire day. Obviously, this is part one. We're just going over cameras and lenses that I take. We'll get into more of why I would take certain ones and why I wouldn't, which ones I do use most, and which ones that just come out here and there. As I said before, the Z9s are going to be the workhorses for the day. One's on the right side, one's on the left side. Usually when I start the day, it's going to be a 2470 and a 70-200, one on each side, and that's going to start me off with getting images of where we're getting ready if we're doing those photos. If we're not doing those getting ready photos, then it's going to be at the ceremony location. We're going to use 2470 to get the wides. We're going to get pictures of the seating. We're going to get pictures of some of the details with the 70-200, some of the small signage, the welcome signs, things like that. You want to grab those, and these two will get you those quick. You got to hurry up and get those when nobody's around. As soon as people start coming, it tends to get a little bit more difficult to try to get those images without any people in the way. After we get all of the 2470 wides, 70-200 for details for the area that we're in, ceremony, usually if that's first, depending on, like I said, if we're doing any getting readies will have other choices as far as selection. If we're doing getting ready photos and we need some details, the macro lens comes out. We're going to need that to get some details. You can do a macro-esque shot with a 70-200. You can have a light on whatever you're taking photos of with a little bit darker background, and you will get a similar look, but the macro is going to be a little bit better lens for those. Now, if I do have somebody that goes with me as a second shooter, they usually have their own equipment. Sometimes my wife does come, and what I'll do with her later on is I'll send her with the 8. I'll throw her on probably a 2470 with a flash on top, give her some settings, and she runs around and gets she'll get a lot of the behind the scenes. She'll get a lot of table shots later on with people mingling. That's a lot of the running around I don't have to do if she's able to go. Other than that, the Z8 sits off to the side with some sort of lens attached depending on the venue. If it's a smaller size venue, I may have the 50 on there if I'm not using that one, or I may have the 2470 on there if that's not on one of my Z9s. This is just a small look into what I take as far as cameras and lenses. Like I said, you don't need all of this. A lot of them are very, I guess you can call them niche lenses or very specifics. 85 and 50. If you have a venue and you're a prime person, I would suggest probably a 35 and 85. I had a 35 1.8. I sold it. I'm waiting on the 1.2 is what the rumor is to come out. So I'm probably gonna be looking at that one to round out my 1.2 and the 1.8 setup. So I would run probably a 35 and an 85. If you have the space, you could run the 2470 in an 85 1.2, or you can run, say, the 135 and the 50 if you have a big enough space. The benefit to running, say, a 2470 2.8 and a 70 2.8 is your settings are going to be identical between the two. So you can run the same aperture lenses on both your cameras. Your lights are the same. Everything else is the same. You have to set your ambient for, say, a reception and set up your lights. We will go over what lights I use, what stands, and say how we light a reception or an indoor ceremony in part 2. I do take one Pelican. I do take my Z8, the 135 and the 14-24. So these two and the Z8 and the macro lens. These plus the adapter, these three lenses, the Z8 and the extra batteries for the Z8 go into a backpack. I carry the backpack on my back, the main case with the two Z9s and the rest of the lenses get wheeled in. And then I also wheel in my lighting and stand case, which is a big think tank. What is it, 4.5 feet tall? That's for the next video, of course. You need to walk in, as the person I second shoot for told me, you need to be able to walk in once and not have to go back to the car. If you need to go back to the car, you may miss something, or if you forgot something, you need to go out. The only other extra thing that we do bring is we have a drone. It is a DJI Mini 3 Pro. If we are able to use it, and it's not a real nasty windy day, because it's okay in some wind, but anything real crazy or rain, obviously we're not going to be able to use it. I did use this last August at my cousin's wedding that I did up in northern Michigan, and we got some good shots from over the lake of the hotel and the wedding ceremony area and reception area. So that was pretty nice to use. It was pretty fun, and it does help out. It gets you a lot of unique shots that you obviously can't get on the ground. So for cameras and lenses, that's everything that I take. There's nothing else that I have that goes with me. I do have other lenses for wildlife and stuff, but those are too long. The 600 and a 180 600, those are too big, so they don't come. We have the case, the backpack that carries our 1424, 2470, 51.2, 8512, the 105 F-mount macro, a 70-200, the 135 1.8, and if we're gonna take the 200 f2. Everything's got its purpose. Everything does get used throughout the year. Sometimes I only shoot with the 2470 and the 70-200. It depends on the pace of the day. If it's a super fast-paced day and we have to be everywhere non-stop, then we go with the zooms. It does help out. It allows you to be, I guess, a little bit lazy. You don't have to run over to a certain spot. You can zoom in, get the shot, and turn around and switch to something else. It does help. If you want me to elaborate more on which ones I use for certain situations and a little bit more detail on one of the lenses or a couple of different ones, or maybe just the zooms and the primes, let me know. Part 2, we will go over what lighting I take, the stands, and the case that hauls all that. That's all one case. I have 6 stands, 4, 5, 6 lights, and a couple of LEDs just in case. But until then, keep shooting, and we will go over lighting and everything else later. Let me know what else you want to see. Thanks. Have a good one. Keep shooting.